is February over already? Oh my gosh.
Girl, I don't know. And I'll be honest, like I don't even usually love February because it feels like it drags. Like I'm just ready for spring. I'm ready to start planting. Like I want warmer weather, but I feel like this February in particular has been extra cozy feeling because
Yes.
Bookstagram has just declared it Love Month. And it's been
Yeah,
the cutest thing. Like all
I
month, I just keep
agree.
seeing girls talk. There's so much, I don't know, just the love aesthetic in general. It's felt very
Yeah,
romantic
yeah.
and cute.
I hope it lasts because I'm loving this aesthetic so much. Seeing everybody just, I don't know, there's a refreshing vibe
I
to
agree.
Bookstagram, right?
Mhm.
So I hope it
Everybody's just so
continues.
positive. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Me too for
yeah.
sure.
I love it. Personally, I love the month.
Hmm.
Just because I mean it's a short month. I always feel like January drags so much. It's like 88 days and you're still in January. So it's like, okay, February just goes by as fast. It is a filler month, kind of, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I love February. I don't know what it is about it that I don't know if it's the love aspect of it. I don't
Hmm.
know, like the love aesthetic. I don't know, but
Hmm.
I love
It's
it. It brings
cutesy
me peace.
girly. You've been
Yeah,
really into coquette
I
aesthetic, so
have
that's probably part
been.
of it too. Like
Yeah.
it fits it all really well.
It really, really does. So yeah,
Hmm.
it also has been a very like I know we talked about this a few episodes ago where
Uh-huh.
February has been like you said, Bookstagram has adapted it to it being instead
Hmm.
of a Valentine's Day, it's like a whole month kind of event kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so like I've been receiving gifts like even last night I sent you a
Hmm.
picture. I received the Lego bouquet flower arrangement
Hmm.
thing and I already got the sunflowers this month. I got tulips this month, real and Legos for both of them. So it's
Hmm.
just been like the entire month I've just been receiving things. So I'm just like, yes, this is definitely the love month. So
That's so cute.
yeah.
Oh.
So I loved it.
It's
Yeah,
been a good month.
it really has. In terms of rating, I feel like it also has been a pretty good month on my end.
Yeah, it's been, I'm gonna, it's like I had favorites and then I had middle of the road reads. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I'll say it
Yeah.
was a very solid reading month for me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I also read 6 books, which is a little more than usual for me for a month.
Nice. That's
Mm-hmm,
good. I
mm-hmm.
as I said in January, I said I was going to read less and I still ended up with 15 books. And I still have 3 that I want to finish today because I'm already over halfway. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like if I don't finish it this month, I'm going to be very upset with myself.
Uh-huh.
So, but we'll
So
get
I
into that.
I feel
Yeah.
like then when we go through these, you need to say 2 books at a time and I'll say one, and then it'll
Okay.
time out well because you're
Okay.
about 3 to 1 to me, or
Yeah.
ratio wise.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, do you want me to start then and start
Yeah,
with
sure.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, hey, just a second. Let's tell our listeners that obviously today's episode is a reading wrap up episode. We actually didn't
Wow.
say that yet.
Yeah, we didn't say it.
But
We
it's been
just
a
jumped into
while.
it.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done an episode where we've like given you guys some book recs, just some details on what we've been reading. So, without further ado, here's what we've been reading this month.
Okay, so first read of the month is Rock in a Hard Place. I really think you would love this author. Her name is
Mhm.
Juliana Smith. She's a bookstagrammer. Her aesthetic is just so, I don't know, it's so cutesy, very
Uh-huh.
vibey. You would probably like her books. This is a single mom and
Mhm.
single. Okay, wait. Let me set the scene.
Okay.
They were high school sweethearts. They got married.
Mhm.
They had twins.
Okay.
He started working a lot because he wanted to provide for the family. I mean, they had 2
Mhm.
kids. So because of all the working and stuff, they started getting detached until they got divorced.
Mhm.
But they still co-parent very well. They live in the same small town, same group of friends, all of that stuff. But he never
Mhm.
stopped loving her and he wants her back. And without knowing, none of the adults know this, the twins start doing like a parent trap kind of thing to try to get their parents together. So they volunteer them for school events. Like they're just constantly making them be together or make him jealous, thinking that her mom
Oh,
is starting dating when it's just the guy that gives her a massage. So it's a whole thing. It's like a very cute, fun. I don't know.
can I
It's just,
say
yeah.
Can I say that if I read that, it would make me so giggly because it would probably remind me of my Remy and my Pa who were married to each other and then they got divorced and they both married other people. And then later on in life, their marriages were not good marriages. They both got divorced and then they remarried each other
I
again. Like,
love
that's
that.
so cute. They're the
goodness.
sweetest little couple. So yeah.
That's
So it'll probably
adorable.
remind me
I
of that
love
like
that.
situation playing
Yeah,
out.
no, I love that. I honestly love when couples, when they go through something like that, they get divorced and then they just, I mean, obviously you don't want them to get divorced, but just the fact that they just went back to each other, it's just like,
Mhm.
that's just the
A
cutest.
little second chance
A
moment.
little second chance. Yeah. So I love that.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
basically the premise of this book. And it was very fun. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, it
So
sounds so good. What's it called
yeah.
again? Can you tell me one more time?
Rock and a hard place.
Rock in a hard place. I'll add
Like the
it.
phrase between rock and a hard place, but
Uh-huh.
without the between.
Okay.
So second book that I read, which you're gonna be proud that I finally read it, and it's Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. That book had me through so many emotions.
Okay, yeah, I have to know, like, spoiler free, but like, did you enjoy it?
Oh, I did. I
Okay,
really,
good.
really did. I went through a lot of emotions, but I feel like the emotions that I felt in the ending of Empire of Storms
Mhm.
surpassed every other emotion that I felt in Kingdom of Ash. So that's why I feel like I have a special place in my heart for Empire of Storms, especially with
Oh.
the ending. I cried, I
Mhm.
sobbed. It was a whole thing.
I
But still,
cried too.
Kingdom of Ash had me tear up. Like it was a very good ending. Like I want more of it. Like I need them to
I
just be
agree.
happy. Like just
It
one
was
book where they're happy.
satisfying. It was a
Yeah.
satisfying ending. I feel
Yeah.
like Sarah J. Maas actually does do that really well. She gives you a
Yeah.
solid conclusion.
Yeah.
But then she keeps that yearning for more. So like you hope to see the characters again in some form or fashion
Yes.
too.
I saw I saw someone posted online and it got me thinking. I was like, oop, um, I don't know if this is gonna be a spoiler. I'm just gonna say the character name and that's it.
Okay. Okay.
But Fenris, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name.
Uh-huh. That's how I say it.
How he was very like he was such an important character, especially in Kingdom of Ash, and how
Mhm.
it would be so cool to see a spin-off of him. And I think he's just such a fun character
Uh-huh.
that I think it could work. So I was
I
like, please, Sarah,
agree.
like keep me in this world, keep writing spin-off like you did with, Akatar. Please do it.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
would be fun.
No, exactly. That would be so much fun. I agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
what
guess it's
was
my
your
turn.
first read? Yeah.
Okay, so related. My first read of the month was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas.
Nice.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of you. It was a really great conclusion. Like I just love the way that she wraps up certain
Yeah.
storylines. And I felt that way. And I know this book had very mixed reactions online. Some people were like giving it 2, 3 stars, and then some people were giving it full 5. I settled on 4.5.
Okay.
And I know that some people's gripe, this is not a spoiler, but it is a series that gives you multiple POVs. And some people were disappointed in how heavy other characters' POVs were in the series, but I would argue that kept me reading more because I love when I am equally as invested in the different POVs. You know, when you're reading a book and it switches POVs and you're like, oh, I want to go back to the other character. But
Yeah.
sometimes you're reading a book and you're just like jumping from character to character and you're like, okay, and tell me what's going on. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me what's going on. And that was what was happening in Flame and Shadow for me.
Okay. Okay.
So I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was really good.
I'm
And that's all I'll say
glad.
about it. Because it's hard when it's a conclusion to not give
Mm-hmm.
spoilers for the whole
Mm-hmm.
series.
Yeah, that's true. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this year is the year. I said that this is the year that I read Crescent City. So
Mm-hmm. Crescent City, I don't know that it's not my favorite of. I'd have to reread the others, I
I
guess,
know.
to
Yeah,
really say. I might have some recency bias going on, thinking it's my favorite right now, but
yeah.
it's just so good.
I can't wait because I keep seeing really good things about it. I actually hadn't seen the mixed reviews. I did see that some of them were not 5 stars. Like it was like 4 stars,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting, because typically it's like 5 stars or something. So, but still,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think you'll like it.
yeah. So I guess it's my turn. Oh, I'm doing two. You want? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
The next one that I read, it was a very short football romance novella.
Mm-hmm.
I think I talked about this very briefly, but basically, it's kind of like forced proximity, fake dating. I think it's that one. Yes, it is that one. Yeah. This is what happens when you read too many. But yes, she is a pop star. He is a football player, and they're just, they have. It was kind of like Taylor
Travis
Swift,
Taylor.
Travis. Yep, yep. she's a pop star. He's like pro football player. And they just kind of like, hey, I think this could be good for PR. So they're like, okay, all right. And so they just kind of like start spending time together. There's a storm one night. She spends the night at his place. She ends up confessing that she's deathly scared of storms. So he just takes care of her throughout the night. And it was just like a very cute, just a feel good book. Like it was a novella, so there wasn't much to it, but the praise was amazing. I have to say, like the praise king.
Ooh.
It was done very well. Very, very well. So yeah. Next one that I read. No, it really was. It really was. I can't wait for more of this book. The author has been like, I don't know, like I think
was she teasing more?
Yeah, more books. She's already gonna release the second book like soon. So I'm excited.
From the same characters?
Not same, just different.
Okay. Yeah,
football players, but they're all in the same group, friend group. So you can still see the other characters.
Okay,
I love she already said that. Series. Yeah, me too. The interconnected standalone series. Love that. Next one that I read was a dark romance. I hadn't read a dark romance in quite a bit. This was part of the Lusting After Dark book club on Fable. So I was like, it sounded good. And I was like, let me start and see how it feels. It's called Alluring Darkness by Raven Wood. I don't think I said the title of the other book, but it was The Stunt by C.L. Rose. Okay. The football one. Okay. Diving into the dark one. It's Alluring Darkness by Raven Wood. This one is filled of trigger warnings. I really enjoyed this one because I feel like I rarely read a book where the female main character is kind of like the unhinged one. Like she's like the crazy of the bunch, that it even has the dark characters, like the bad guys, it even has them like, is she okay? Like it's to that level where they were like, what is she doing? Like what? And so I love that aspect of her being the crazy one, the completely unhinged one. And it's basically this school where kids get sent to become assassins, to learn how to become assassins. And so a lot of the families that are in that school, they are rivals, they're enemies, but that's kind of like the neutral ground. But you can kind of like hurt someone and almost unalive someone, and it's kind of like, oh, it's okay. It's practicing for being an assassin. So yeah, so it was along those vibes, and it was very cool. Yeah, it was hot. It was a very hot book. Very hot. So
can I say too, like while you were talking, I was getting distracted because I noticed your Taylor cardigan, and that color is just so pretty on you. Like I feel like you're glowing.
Thank you. Girl, color. I thank you for your color analysis. Yep, that has helped me so much. Whenever I'm buying something online, I would typically gravitate towards the brownish colors, kind of like the warmer colors. And now it's like, wait, Jen, no, we're not doing that anymore. And it's like I specifically look for like pastel or like blues and pinks and blacks, and I've noticed a major difference in just like how my skin looks whenever I wear them. So thank you.
It's crazy. Of course, color science is so wild. Like it does, I do feel like it has like a glowing effect on your skin. That's so cool.
It really does. It really does. It really like changes. I don't know. It's weird, but it works.
So the next book that I read is actually a nonfiction book, and it was called The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. So pretty standard for me is to give a nonfiction 3 or 3.5 stars, because it's not like I'm not emotionally connecting to the book, and that's a lot of what determines a 4 or 5 star book for me. But if I just like read it and like I enjoyed the learning that I did from it, then that bumps it up to a 3.5 stars. Okay, so just a little context for the mom test. It's basically your mom's always going to tell you something is a good idea. Like she's always going to encourage you. So the idea behind it is, how do you, when you are trying to like market yourself to potential customers, how do you have conversations with them that keeps the conversation geared towards a concrete end point for your idea? For example, like if I'm pitching to somebody, I work in marketing. So if I'm pitching to somebody, how do I learn how to keep the conversations on the right track, not let them be veered off by like fluff, or like it talks about how compliments are great, but they're not, clicking by. Yeah. So it's like how to determine who's an actual lead and who's not, and like how to get to that point of determining who's worth continuing the conversation. It was really informative. I definitely took some principles away from it and will be applying it as I conversationally sell myself for my job. So
that's what I was gonna ask you. Yeah.
That's why I read it. My boss actually, she was recommended it by someone, and so we decided we were going to read it. And we she hasn't yet, but this week I went over some of my favorite points from the book, so it was cool. I feel like it gives me a little more confidence as I'm talking to strangers, because I have a hard time doing that in messages. Yeah. It's been a learning curve for me. So,
and how about, I was going to ask you, how about like moving that into Bookstagram? Because you know how sometimes you engage with someone on stories, but sometimes it just kind of like falls flat, and it's like you don't know what else to say to kind of continue the conversation kind of thing. Like, do you think that there are principles of it that can help? Or
that's actually a very good question. How would I might have to think on that and like give an update on our Instagram. I don't know, because
also learn for yourself too, like for your own branding,
for my own branding. You're right. Yeah. There's something there. There's something there for sure. Okay, well, stay tuned on our Instagram. I'm gonna deep dive on how to apply it to our own account as well.
Please do. I want to learn. I want to learn from you. Oh my gosh. Okay, next one. Highly recommend that you read this one, just so that you read it.
My Goodreads
just so that you read it, and you've probably seen it online a lot.
Okay.
Butcher and Blackbird.
Okay, is that the one with the chocolate chip ice cream?
Yes.
Do you know? Yes, I know about it, and I know
you found out about it
from Laura on Elite Reading.
What do you know about? Like, do you know the details about it, or you just know the ice cream? Like, there's an ice cream scene.
Just know there's an ice cream scene because I've seen people reference it, and I specifically remember a video that Laura at Elite Reading did where she was like in Costco or Sam's Club, and she was like, when you go to get the chocolate chip ice cream, and then you remember dark romance, though. You know, my little heart can't take dark romance.
No,
sometimes.
but this is a dark rom-com.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I feel like I need to give it a try, if not just to try for you, you know?
Yeah, but it's heavy on the like, if there was, I know how you are with your reading and how you like lighter stuff and stuff. So I would definitely say that this is like a good introduction, just because it's very rom-com-y. It just has like I think the dark aspect is just that they are serial killers. Good. I think the dark aspect is just that they're serial killers. Like, there's no trigger warnings in the sense of like, you know, him being a bully to her, him making her life impossible, and like the aspect of dark romance, you know. No, it's just that it's actually pretty good.
Serial killers.
Yeah, they're serial killers, but they are kind of like Robin Hood, where he steals from, you know, the rich people to give to the poor. So for them, it's like unaliving people that do bad things, like those who like murder or rape or are serial killers themselves and are like doing terrible things. So they are the ones that take it upon themselves to rid the world of like the bad people, if that makes sense. So it's with that mentality. But yeah, the ice cream scene, it's interesting. I remember messaging my friend. I'm not gonna say anything because it's a pretty, you need to experience it for yourself. But I remember reading that part, and I messaged my friend, and I was like, I don't know if it's because I've just read too much dark romance, or I've experienced a lot in my life, that I just was like, I wonder what that would be like. Like, it wasn't even a thought of like, ew, oh my gosh, or like, what is happening? It was just like, okay. That's like when I was like, something's wrong with me.
It reminds me of the I'm a Vampire line in Saltburn. You know what I'm not talking about? If you know, you know. Where you're like, what is happening? But at the same time, you're like,
listen. Oh my gosh, that part is has.
Can I give you a movie rec based on what you're telling me about this book, though? Side note.
Okay.
It's on Netflix, and you might have seen it. It's not, it's just like it's not really, I don't know that I'd call it dark, but it's a movie on Netflix, and oh my gosh, I can't even remember the names of the actor and actresses. It's got Nina Dobrev in it from Vampire Diaries, though.
Okay.
And she is engaged to this Adam Devine. Do you know who he is? They're a couple.
Yes, I know who he is.
Movie. Yeah. And her parents are like serial bank robbers, and he works at a bank, and it's just this really fun comedy. That's all I'll say about it. and it involves like it's cute. It's on Netflix. We watched it.
I'll have to look for it because that sounds good.
It'll be on there. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It's not like great quality movie, like no cinematic masterpiece, but it'll make you laugh. Yeah.
It's good. Okay, I'll have to pay attention to it for sure. I'll look for it. Next, wait.
Yeah, next book for you.
Okay. Trying to count. Okay, so the next one that I read is by a Puerto Rican author, which I was like, ooh. It's slashed by Thalia Sanchez. It's a dark romance. I think it's a novella-ish. Yes, it is a novella. Kind of like horror, dark romance. He is a serial killer because going on par with serial killers. He's a serial killer, and she is in line to get to the, you know how whenever there's like Halloween events with like horror houses and all that stuff, she was gonna go into like a labyrinth of one of them, and there's this serial killer there, and he's like taking advantage to kill people because obviously nobody's gonna bat an eye at someone wearing a ski mask or anything like that because it's Halloween. So he's taking advantage, and in this ride and this, you know, he's unaliving people, all that stuff. And the only reason why she basically stayed alive and survived him is because she decided to bang him. She had no idea he was a serial killer. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, that knife looks real. The blood looks real. But she was like, oh my gosh, like, he seems like he's hot. And she proceeds to bang him while he's unaliving people. I know. It was I feel like it was I understand it was a novella, but there are novellas that work where you feel like it feels like a long book, right? It feels like it has everything that it's okay as a novella because I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly, but
no, it makes sense. It still feels like a complete story, even though it's a novella. Yeah.
Whereas this one felt like, I know it takes place during basically one night, but it just felt like this is happening, jump to this, jump to this, jump to this, and then the end. And I was just kind of like, you know,
it feels like a scene, not a book. It feels like a scene from a book. Yes, I feel that.
So I was just kind of like, I was a little bit disappointed by that. I still gave it like 3 stars or 3 something. So still enjoyable. 3 stars. I wish there had been more. I feel like if it had been fleshed out more, because even the writing style was very good. Like, she was very good about it. But I just needed more from the story for it to feel more rounded and complete.
That makes sense. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Your turn. And we read we both read this one, so I'm gonna piggyback.
You want to kind of talk about it? Yeah. Okay, so 7-Year Slip, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I don't know how to say her last name.
I don't know.
I gave it 5 stars. I loved the heck out of this book. It's would you call it a second chance? I said second chance-ish. There is a 7-year gap for him. For him, it's definitely second. This is weird. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but like, it is. I feel like it is.
I feel like it is too. I think I think I probably put second chance as well.
Okay. Maybe. And it's forced proximity. I also kind of think it's Grumpy Sunshine, even though most people don't tend to agree there because, and maybe it's not necessarily Grumpy Sunshine, but she's kind of depressed and he's like a sunshine character. So I feel like it fits the vibe of a Grumpy Sunshine because she's going through a hard time when she's meeting him. So it's just, I know why people love this book now. It was so romantic. It was so feel good romantic. I love when books have, how do I explain this? Like, it's obviously, if you're a reader and you're reading a romance book, you can relate to characters who also love books. And that's not always like fun in books, which is realistic. But I love when a book has a bookish vibe, and the fact that she works for a travel book publishing company and like he's trying to write a cookbook, even though it's not like a romance or necessarily fiction, books are involved and it has an academia vibe to it. And I just love that. It's New York City too, right?
Yes. I believe so.
Which is great for bookish vibes books.
Yeah. I agree.
It was so good.
I gave it 4.5, bordering on 4.75. But yeah, I found nothing wrong with it, honestly. Like, I think the start was a little bit slow for me, and that's why I didn't give it 5 stars. Like, to me, 5 stars, it needs to be perfect, and I need to be in it from beginning to end. So I think that's why I gave it like 4.75. But
that makes sense.
But no, I loved the whole aspect of having a magical apartment, and that's how they met. So for background, for those who haven't read it, basically we have our two main characters, Clementine and how do you say his name? Iwan?
Ooh.
Iwan?
Ewan. I'm gonna Google that actually.
I feel like it's Iwan, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
But anyway, they basically met through Clementine's late aunt's magical apartment, except he is 7 years in the past and she is in the present. So sometimes she comes into her apartment and she's 7 years into the past and she's meeting this guy that moved into her aunt's apartment. And sometimes she opens up her apartment and she's back in her real life in the present, which I thought I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about that. Did you know, like, or you didn't? We both went into it not knowing anything about the book.
We went into it blind. I will say I called one of the minor points very early on before it was explained, like when she bumps into someone and then you realize he's a chef, like a chapter or two later.
I called that out.
Okay, that's
I called that out. Yeah.
But I thought I forgot your question.
Very on par with us. It's fine.
I was looking up how to pronounce his name, and honestly, it seems like it depends, like what the origin. Like some things say Ewan and some things say Ewan, which feels like an interesting pronunciation. But
yeah. Oh man, I wish I knew because I do not want to butcher it. But but yeah, the hype is worth it.
And it was fade to black too for those that don't love. Right?
Was it? I don't remember. Honestly, I was so into the story that I don't. Maybe.
I think it was. I think it was a closed door. Like the foreplay is played out, and then I think it's closed door after that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's really one of those stories that I think it was so unique that I think it's gonna stick with me. Especially the whole, like, I loved that while it was rom-com, it also dealt with heavy topics, with like with mental health and all that stuff. And I honestly was like, it took me aback because I was not expecting it. And there were so many quotes that I related to that I was just like highlighting like crazy. So I can't wait to buy the physical copy so that I can annotate it because the entire book was so good. The romance, the friendships.
I was just gonna say Lemon is up there with like Little Fox for me as far as like
and nicknames. I loved it. I could not get it. At first I was like, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is the cutest nickname ever. It was so cute. I loved it. Anything else you want to say? Because I kind of like took over, but yeah.
No. I agree with everything you said. It was good. I love the magical realism elements. It was funny because I was telling Matt about it. I was like, this apartment, and he's like, but why does the apartment do that? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, when you find out, tell me because I don't understand. He's so engineering brained. He needs to know. Okay. I'm like, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is the apartment is magic. I don't need an explanation for why. He was so mad when I finished the book and I was like, you never find out why the apartment does that. And he's like, what?
Just is. Did you ever read One Last Stop by Casey, the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue?
No, I did like Red, White, and Royal Blue, but I never read One Last Stop.
Well, One Last Stop is magical realism as well.
Okay, I'll have to read that.
So, I think if you liked this, you would like that aspect because it does kind of have something similar, but it's with a train instead of with an apartment.
Oh,
that's all I will say.
Okay, noted.
Yeah, that's all I will say. But yeah.
So what was another one of yours after the 7-year?
Next one was, and I mentioned this very briefly in one of our episodes, and that is a dark cowboy romance, and it's Sovereign by Raya Morris Edwards. It's a dark cowboy romance. He basically sees her, like, he is a rival to this other ranch kind of thing, and he is planning to just kind of like take over kind of thing, and he sees this owner's wife and he's like, I want her. So he unalives her husband and makes her life so, I'm not gonna give details, but he makes her life so that she has no other choice but to go and live with him. And he planned it all. She has no idea. And so yeah, and she slowly obviously starts liking him and starts, and all the fun sexual stuff was like chef's kiss. Let me tell you, the sexy scenes were
chef's kiss. They were
chef's kiss. There were so many. I'm gonna read just some trigger like content warnings, trigger warnings, kinks, whatever you want to call them. Red flag, I don't know. But it's like, okay, so it's an age gap Western romance, which I feel like I don't read much Western romances. But yeah, there's hand necklaces, breath play, BDSM, which involves dumb sub dynamics, praise, degradation, restraints, collaring, clit clamps. Yeah. Nipple clamps, impact play, spanking, somnophilia, spitting, edging, gunplay. I mean, it had it all.
This book is packed. Oh my God. So it was good. You liked it.
The spice was amazing, honestly. But yeah, I think I gave it like 3.5 or 3.75, something like that. Yeah. Okay. But the spice was good. The spice was spicing. Oh God.
I have a book on here that's kind of like that. I'll get to eventually.
Ooh, okay. Do you want to go ahead and continue, or do you want
sure.
Yeah.
So my next one was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which I also gave 5 stars. You read this one, right?
Oh, yes. I loved it.
Oh, good. I posted on TikTok and I was like, I'm starting a series on here. One, because I just haven't had much like inspiration to create my own content in short form video lately. And this seems like a good way to do it. So I'm documenting my journey of reading through my physical TBR. And that also is like helping keep me accountable to reading through my physical TBR. I made a Goodreads shelf. I logged the books. That's my focus right now. And so Part of Your World is one that I've had on my shelf for 2 years. I was like, how have I had this on my shelf for 2 years? It's just a 5-star read that's just been chilling there, unsuspecting. I don't know how I took so long to read it, but if you haven't read it, it is so good. I loved also The Friend Zone and the Happy Ever After playlist by this author. So again, I don't know why it took me so long to actually pick this one up, but it's age gap. She's the older one in the age gap romance. It's opposites attract. It's like big city girl and small town boy. It's got elements of forbidden romance because he does not fit into her life at all. And she's kind of bound by certain restraints with the life that she lives. Her family is very, very wealthy. It's also got some forced proximity in it. There's a moment where like her and her friends plan a trip to this small town inn, and like, you know, they're not planning on seeing each other. So they're around each other in a situation where they cannot act like they are as intimate as they are. It was unexpectedly emotional too, with like the side plots. The side character has an emotionally abusive and physically abusive relationship. There's domestic violence at play. There's a lot of emotional awareness of the main character, of her own abuse that she learns and is opening her eyes to. So it was just a really good balance between like emotionally heavy topics and also like feel good giggle at it. And it was just wonderful.
Love that. I love when books do that. Yeah. I bought Yours Truly by the same author, and I can't wait to read it because one of the bookstagrammers that I recently met, she's like, it's my favorite book. Like, he is like one of my top book boyfriends. Like, and I was like, okay, like I need to read it. And book of the month, like the subscription, they what's it called? Yours Truly ended up winning like something of the year or something like that. Cool. It was that book. So I was like, okay, and I have it on my March TBR because I definitely want to read it for March. So yeah. But Part of Your World, eventually,
kiss,
so good.
When I get through my physical TBR.
Exactly.
I told Matt, because he was like, okay, good. So I logged, like, I want to say it was 34 books that I need to read through before I start shopping around for more. And that doesn't count the like mass market paperbacks that I have up top. I'm not including those. Matt was like, okay, so for you, that's about 6 months. So it should be about 6 months before you bookshop. And I'm like, you're right. Like that means it's like keeping me accountable to like reading faster or more, like, and like gaining less and reading more. Cause I'm like, the sooner I get through these, the sooner I can bookshop. So what's next for you?
So the next one that I read was Where's Molly by H.D. Carlton. You've heard of Cat and Mouse Duet, right? Haunting Adeline. Yeah. So this is like a spin-off to that. I think I told you about this. One of the girls, she doesn't physically appear in the duet. She just appears through journals that she had written. So this is her story, kind of like her escaping her story from the journals, basically, and just how she escaped. She's living not anonymously, but she's hidden, basically, and she works at this pig farm because kind of like similar to one of the other books that I was talking about with Butcher and Blackbird, where she kind of helps the evil men of the world disappear, like those who rape, those who, she kind of helps disappear by owning a pig farm. Like people kill them and they take the bodies to her and she cuts them up and feeds her pigs the bodies.
Stop. Why is that like kind of badass? Like,
right? Very.
Okay.
And so she encounters this guy that she met years ago. He was the one who actually helped her get a new identity, move away, kind of start a new life, but she came back. And he's like, what are you doing back? Like, when someone wants to disappear, they typically don't come back. And so they had a thing, for one night back in the day. And so there's a quote where he's like, I let her go once. I'm not letting that happen again. And so he tries to insert himself into her life as much as he can, because he really wants her, but she's very skittish. She hasn't had good relationships with men, starting with her father. Her father sold her off because he wanted money. So he sold her off. And so she hasn't had good relationships with men. And so she's kind of like, she knows he's good, but she's still very, she's been on her own, kind of depending on herself. So, it was it's a dark romance. It was very emotionally impacting. Like Haunting Adeline is the same thing, especially the second book. It's very emotional. It impacts you. Like, it really makes you like, oh my
it like
gosh.
Sticks with you.
It really sticks with you. And so it's kind of the same. It's a very short book. I think it's like 213 pages. So it's a very short, very quick read, but it packs a lot. It definitely packs a lot. And I loved it. Like H.D. Carlton continues to just kind of like hit it with her books every single time.
So what'd you rate it?
I think I gave it like 4.5 or 4.75.
Okay, so really, really good.
Yeah. It was still a great read for sure. So
okay,
cool. Do I continue? I keep forgetting.
I can't remember.
You were talking about Part of Your World, so I guess.
Right. Oh yeah, so you have another one still.
Yeah. I realized I skipped a book.
What was it?
I forgot. And it's Tempting Promises by Corinne Michaels. This is a series that I think you would love. I think it's called The Whitlock Family. Or Whitlock Farms series. I don't know. But I loved the first book. Second book became one of my top favorites of last year of 2023. And so this third book, it kind of follows a family, like brothers and sisters, and just kind of like their love stories. And with this one, we have the main character. I forgot what he is. But basically, I know that he wants to acquire like land and like animals for his farm or ranch or whatever. And there's this other girl that she does the same thing. She has her own organic farm and she's trying to make her name, in just as an organic farm and stuff like that, because she needs the money. She's about to lose the farm. And she's like, I need a contract to really put myself out there, get the money, continue the farm alive. And he is also fighting for that same contract. And so it does have that rivals to lovers connection between them. And she makes him spend money unnecessarily because she's like, that's the cattle that you're looking at. I'm looking at it too. And she really wasn't. She just wanted him to spend a ton of money. They have that rivalry on page, like it's there. So yeah, and it was a very fun. I love Corinne's writing, so it was very fun, feel good story. The second book is definitely my favorite still, but this was still amazing, and I can't wait for more books in the series.
I love Rivals to Lovers. Rivals to Lovers is so good.
It works. It hits every single time. Enemies to Lovers is great, but rivals, when they're like fighting for something like against each other, it just kind of like heightens things a little bit more. So, which I think is kind of cool. So yeah, your turn now.
All right. So next I read, this is another nonfiction. It was called The Modern Homestead Garden. And it's just a book I had picked up last year to talk about, or that goes over like, I have recently gotten into gardening since we have a backyard now. And so last year I did lots of tomatoes, peppers. This year I want to do cucumbers and like onions and like expand. So I have plans. I've got like 2 different garden beds going. So this book basically talks about some like tips and some helpful just practices as you look to have like grow veggies and herbs and stuff. It was really informative. So I I gave it 3.5 stars because I was interested in the topic and it was nonfiction. So I'm excited to start using that. I think we've got a couple of weeks still before it starts getting time to like plant and actually get going with things. But it made me very, very excited to do so. Last year I had like flowers and veggies in the backyard.
I remember
this year. And I think this year I'm only going to do flowers in pots, and I'm going to focus all of my flowers veggies in the front where they're seen by more people, and then and in the back it's just gonna be veggies.
The veggies. So. That's amazing.
So, yeah, it was good.
That's great. No, like I'm hoping, I know we talked about this. We've been talking about this for a bit. I'm hoping we have quite a bunch of open houses, basically the entire month of March. And, you know, it could be maybe by the end of this year, we could be moved out of this house. So hopefully like when we move, like I'll be able to focus on having an area, because I would have a much smaller yard than what we have right now, but hopefully I can have an area where I can kind of like plant some veggies, because I really want that. I really want to do that. So
that would be so fun.
That would be fun, and I would definitely ask you for tips and tricks.
And we're both in our bread making era right now.
In our bread making era. We typically go through we go through a lot of similar seasons. Like I remember when we were both looking for a job, and then we both landed the same job. We were both in it together. And then while we were in that same job, we were both moving. Do you remember?
Right.
Like a month after, was it? I think it was like a month after us landing the job. It was like, oh, we're moving.
That's
so wild. There was that You're too. Right. We go through a lot of the similar things at the same time.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, we're in our bread making eras right now.
Yeah, we're right now in that. And soft girl era too.
And soft girl era for sure.
That's another reason why we vibe so well too. I feel like.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So okay, so tell me about your next two reads.
Oh, it's me too again. Oh geez. Okay. Dear gosh. Next one is Takeover by Nana Malone. To be honest, I don't remember much about it. I feel like I have to like refresh my memory on it. I do remember it was an arranged marriage kind of thing. That's all I remember from it. And I remember it ending in a cliffhanger, and I was very upset. Like throughout the book, I was enjoying it a lot. And then I reached the ending because I'm thinking this is going to be a happy ending book. And then I reached the ending, and it's a cliffhanger that came out of nowhere, to be honest. Like I feel like the book could have done without it. Like it could have ended well. Everything was well. This was just thrown on there. And to me, it was just probably more for shocking factor. And I was just kind of like, I'm not vibing with that. So I gave it like 3.5, I think, because I enjoyed it. But that came out of nowhere. I was just kind of like, I don't know why this is here. Like, why are you here? So that just kind of like made me, But I remember it being like, that I enjoyed it. That's all I remember from the book. It wasn't necessarily memorable, but it was good. So like 3-ish stars. Yeah, like 3.25, 3.5, around there somewhere. Next one that I read was a favorite of this year. Ooh. And that is Pretty Rings and Broken Things. It's the title. Okay. And that's a cute name. This is I love this author. I only discovered her last year with Black Ties and White Lies was the book. And then she also started writing like a small town romance series. And in this book, Pretty Rings and Broken Things, she does the crossover from the characters from her small town series into this one, which I thought was amazing. And it developed this friendship between like the men and the girls too. But the men, I loved the male friendship specifically. I'm kind of looking, because I feel like I need to read just one sentence from my review to remember like everything. You know, it's one of those things. But okay. Oh yeah. I just posted a reel about this. Archer Moore. How could I have forgotten him? Oh my gosh. So basically I think it's also an arranged. Yes. It's an age gap arranged marriage. And typically when these things happen and he's a billionaire, he tends to be an alpha hole, but he was just an absolute sweetheart when it came to Winnie. She's the main character. He was just completely adorable, completely gone for her. It was supposed to be an arranged marriage, you know, kind of like fake. I mean, they end up getting married, but you know, it's supposed to be fake, all that stuff. And for him, it's anything but fake. Like he's completely from the start, he's gone for her, and he's constantly like, like kind of what's the word I'm looking for, like remembering that it's fake, that it's not real between them, but then doing things that are definitely, very, very real.
Very real.
Like inviting her on a date. He's like, oh yeah, are you free this day? And she's like, yeah, why? He's like, well, let's go on a date. And she's like, well, we typically need a reason to like go out. We don't have an event, right? And he's like, no, but there is a reason. And she's like, well, what's the reason? He's like, I want to take my wife out on a date. And I was like,
he's a cinnamon roll.
Yes. And he's constantly referring to her as my wife. He's like, my gosh, my wife looks breathtakingly like beautiful. And I'm just like, so good. I gave it 5 stars, full on 5 stars. I loved it. This author continues to excel with every single book, because one of her books last year, Tempt Our Fate, was my top favorite of last year. One of them. So now this year, already starting the year off with another favorite of hers. Yeah. Very, very good. Loved it. Can't get enough of it. So yeah, continue.
It's my last. Okay, so this is my last book.
Okay.
And it was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, because it's been so long since the Brown sisters books were all over Bookstagram. I really enjoyed the first 2. This one fell flat for me. I gave it 3. Okay, let me say it fell flat, but it was still good. Like, it just did not meet my expectations, basically.
Okay.
So I gave it 3 stars, expecting it to be like 4.5, I guess. So that was probably part of my issue. It was good. A 3-star rating for me is good. It's just not a favorite.
Yeah.
It's got forced proximity, workplace romance, friends to lovers-ish, and it also has spectrum representation, autism representation. I don't know how you would say that, but both of the main characters. So I think my main hang-up was, when you're reading a rom-com or a romance book of any sort, you want to feel plugged into the story, and you want it to feel like you could easily see this playing out on screen, but sometimes they're written kind of choppy and it takes you out of the story. It just makes it a little cheesier. And I had that problem with this one for some reason, which surprised me, because again, I did not have that issue with the first 2 books in this series. But I will say I enjoyed the Danny Brown one less than the Chloe Brown. So it's just like every book I'm like, dang it, I like this less and less.
Gotcha.
But,
Okay.
But it was good. It was still solid. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't a favorite by any means. But she as a main character is just not super lovable in the beginning. She's like very spoiled rich girl, like learning how to like make any sort of commitment, and you learn why, but it just takes you a while to like really appreciate her as a character. And I think that also made me have a hard time getting played. He was also like a big grump, but not in an appealing way at first. And again, it's like one of those things where you learn why for both of them, and you do end up appreciating like their backstories. But in the beginning, I'm like, I just can't get into this because I don't like either of them yet, and I don't know what it is. So it was good. It was good at the end. This is the one, though, that I said I gave 3 stars, but the spice was very, very good. The spice was really well done here. The first, like, really spicy scene, I had to read it to Matt because I was like, you got to hear this. And it was, I did really like the way that played out. So,
okay. Okay. I remember Danny Brown being, I enjoyed I never read Chloe. So I can't compare. I did read Danny and I really loved it. I really loved Danny, and I remember liking the spicy scenes. So
Talia Hibbert does write spicy well.
Okay, good to know.
So that's it. That's all my books. So do you have 2 more or 3 more?
I have 3 more.
Okay, 3 more. Okay.
So one of them is super short. One of them was it's a very different book for me. It's hold on. Black Girl, You Are Atlas. It's okay. I got it. I got the audiobook through Libro FM, like influencer program, and it's a poetry book, and I really liked it. Like, I didn't really know what to give it in terms of rating because it's a poetry. So it was perfect, but I also reserved my 5 stars, like, to like the things that I really
a story.
So that's how I'm like, I don't know what to rate this one yet. But basically it's, it was a very beautiful moving, very reflective and thought-provoking, because I feel like I'm not necessarily I'm definitely not a Black girl. Like, I'm really not. I'm more like tan than anything. But and obviously living in Puerto Rico, like, I didn't go through the experiences that Black women go through in United States. So it's a very different dynamic. But there were a lot of things that I definitely understood, especially when it came to talking about curly hair. I was like, yes, like the curly hair aspect was they basically saying like, how the weather, kind of a direct quote where she was like, how the weather cannot go against the African roots that make up the curly hair. And I was like, that is so true.
Because you have a very love-hate relationship.
Yes. I've learned to love the frizz, though. Good. I've learned to accept the frizz. Like, I saw that once years ago where someone was like, you know, you cannot escape it, so why don't you embrace it? And I was like, that's so true. And so that changed my mind completely for whenever I have frizzy hair. It's like, this is my hair. Take it or leave it, you know, kind of that mentality.
It's just volume.
Yeah. And so I just, you know, it kind of talked a little bit about everything from Black girlhood to finding your voice to being a victim of sexual harassment. You know, it had a lot in these poems, and it was all very, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this. Well, it was a very different read for me. It was great. I really liked it. It was super short. An audiobook, it was only 52 minutes, less than an hour. So it was very short. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next one that I read, I don't know if you've seen this one around, but it's The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one? Oh my gosh. It's okay. Did you read Bride by Ali Hazelwood? You haven't. Okay. Well, basically, whenever you read Bride, you're going to want to read this one.
Okay. I have to get through my physical TBR, but let me tell you, Bride is one of the first books I want to buy once I do.
So
Bride is up there.
Please. I think you love Ali. So I know you would love Bride. But this is a shifter romance. I mean, the title, Mate. So basically, you have the two main characters. They both need a fake relationship. She needs it because her grandma is after her, that she's going to die and she's not going to have kids. And she's trying to set her up constantly with, you know, with other men. And she's just about had it. And then he needs a fake relationship because they both work at a hospital. So it has Grey's Anatomy vibes. They both work at a hospital, and he has alpha status. Like, he's an alpha, but he never disclosed that in his application. So someone found out and released that information. And so alphas are not that they're seen negatively, but they do come with a reputation of them because they are alpha. Their emotions are heightened even more. So like, if he gets mad, he may punch someone. Like, he doesn't do that, but that's the mentality of people related to alphas. So when they found out, you know, he was like, they may probably fire me, they may probably do something. So if he has a mate, the mate can keep him controlled, kind of thing. So he's like, I need that. He's a full-on grump. She's a full-on sunshine. Like, she says some things and he just like blankly stares at her, and it's funny, and he's just like, just blink. And so so they both end up, you know, becoming fake mates. But obviously they're like, yeah, this is fake, this is totally fake. And obviously it's like, very quickly they both, especially him, start developing feelings very, very quickly for each other. And listen, I'm blushing. Listen, the spice, like, people kept talking about the spice in this book. And I was just like, you know, like, okay, like, but it's traditionally published, and we know that traditionally published sometimes, I mean, things have changed, thankfully. But you know how sometimes the spice is not necessarily like, they don't have too much free reign. So I was like, okay, you know, it's probably gonna be spice. Listen, I was blushing while I was reading that book. I was like, excuse me, sir, like, what is happening here? It was so top tier. I was like, I think I gave it 5 stars? Okay. Again, I'm picky with my 5 stars. Okay. But 4.5 is basically 5 stars to other people. Me, I'm just being picky. So, but yeah, to the point that I saw it at the bookstore yesterday, and I ran, like, I was like, mine. And my friend ended up getting it for me. She's like, I want to buy you a book. And she like grabbed it out of my hands and paid for it. So I'm happy I own it. And it was so good that right then and there, they had another book by that author. And I was like, don't even know what the book is about. I just knew that I needed it. So I grabbed it, can't wait to read that one. So
that sounds so good.
Highly recommend The Fake Mate. Ugh, it was perfect. Chef's kiss, top tier. Yeah. And the last one, dear goodness, I read a lot. Last one was, I'm not going to say disappointing, because it wasn't. I don't know. I don't really know what vibes I went into with this book. It's Love Contract by Sophie Lark. I've only read 1 or 2 books by this author before in her dark romance, but remember Katana Collins? We had her on the podcast. So obviously you remember. You know how Katana like writes in different genres kind of thing? Right. Well, Sophie does that. She has fantasy, she has mafia romance, she has dark serial killer romance. She's now into the rom-com, fake dating world, stuff like that. So she's like writes a little bit of everything. And don't get me wrong, her writing is good. Like she's very, very talented in everything that she writes. And I enjoyed this, for the most part. What I really liked the romance. I loved everything about it. Like it was so good. My only thing, and this is what ruined the book for me. My only thing was there was this female side character that appeared only twice in this book. Twice. And her actions were enough for me to it completely changed the vibe of the book for me that it was going to be a 4 stars or 4.25. It ended up going down to 3.25 because her actions, I was just like, I could not deal with it. I could not stand her. And to me, it was, I feel like it could have been done differently to kind of carry the plot. It could have been entirely different and still carry the point across. And I was not a fan. And it was enough for me to just, it really does. Because again, it was a very good romance. It was very good. And, it had fake dating, forced proximity. She moves in with him. It had a little bit of hate to love. It was great. Their dynamics. She's a chef. It was a whole thing. It was very good. But this side character just kind of like derailed things for me, which is upsetting.
Speaking of chefs, there's something about a chef romance that's just been hitting lately. Like the 7-Year Slip, he's a chef. Matt and I just started watching The Bear, and that's a show that focuses on a chef.
Is the main character. Good? I've been wanting to ask you, like, if you had heard about it. Because celebrities are talking about it. Yes. Like people are like watching it.
My brother loves it so much. And so we were like, all right, let's give it a shot. We're only 3 episodes in. I'm more hooked than Matt is, but it's one of those shows that I think you do have to get several episodes in to start being like, whoa, because the first 2 or 3 episodes you can tell are setting up a lot. So I appreciate that. Like I want to be emotionally connected to the characters as soon as possible. And that's what the show's doing. So I would say so far, yes, it's really good. I'll keep you posted. I also like Recipe for Second Chances by Ali Rosen, as you know, was a favorite of mine.
True, as a chef too.
And then I'm so excited because I am a permanent ARC reader for Kelsey and Denise Stone. I love them. They're so sweet. I love particularly Denise's bookstagram is just like stunning. And Kelsey's too. Kelsey's great too, but I found Denise before I knew her. I love them. They're great. Anyway, their books are great. And their new book that releases in April is called Falling for Meadow. And it's a chef romance as well. And I'm just like,
oh my gosh. It's like chef upon chefs.
She's been teasing like the yes chefs, because that's a thing in The Bear is like, yes chef is a sign of respect. So everybody says yes chef to each other. And I'm like, that's gonna be so hot. Like I just know it is.
Okay. True. Oh, I'm already picturing it. Oh my goodness, you need to tell me about it for sure. Oh, I definitely want to give that a shot because I think it was Zendaya. I was watching interviews for the Dune Part 2 cast, and it was like, okay, what have you been binging? And it was like 2 to 3 actors said The Bear, and I was like, okay. What is this? I need to figure out. I need to look for this. So
it's so funny too, because the company I work for is involved in the food industry. And my boss was like, as somebody who works in the food industry, like the Bear will stress you out. Like it's so good, but it'll really stress you out. I'm like, oh gosh. Another rec for you, by the way. Have me
feeling, that's fine. Just at least have me feeling something.
Yes, yes. And another I feel like you will enjoy this show I know you're doing your tandem watch right now, but I recently started rewatching the 90210 reboot from the early 2000s. I forgot how good. It's very Gossip Girl-esque. It's like Gossip Girl mixed with, I don't actually know what I would say it's mixed with. I can't come up with anything off the top of my head.
I remember watching like 1 or 2 episodes back in the day, but it wasn't like, you know, it was completely out of context. So I had no clue what was going on. So.
I like something going on in the background all day while I'm working. So I've been putting that on, and I forgot. I love when it's been so long on a show that I forgot a lot of minor plot lines, and that's where I am with that. I think it's been years and years. So I'm like, I'm going to rewatch this, and then I'm going to rewatch Gossip Girl. And anyway, I think you would like 90210.
Okay. I need to also watch Gossip Girl. I've never seen it.
You've never seen Gossip? Oh my God. You would love Chuck Bass.
I know I would.
And Nate Archibald too. I feel like you would love both of them. Oh my gosh. You need to watch Gossip Girl. Maybe wait, and maybe we can watch it like at the same time. Since you're watching your other shows right now and I'm watching 90210, we can time it out.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because I'm currently, obviously, as you know, tandem watching The Vampire Diaries and the originals. I had forgotten so much, kind of like you said, you forget, you remember like the very big things, but there's a lot of side things that are still just as important. And I had completely forgotten. And I'm just like, oh, and the other day I was watching it, and Sam, I reacted that way, and Sam was like, you have watched this? I'm like, yeah, but I forgot about this. And like, he doesn't like rewatching stuff. And I was like, this is why people rewatch. He doesn't understand.
You pick up more. Like, it's just different.
He doesn't understand why people rewatch. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, but he has a very good memory. Like, he will watch one thing once. And like, I remember when he watched Arrested Development once years ago, him and his brother would constantly quote it. And I was like, how many times did you watch that? Once. And I'm like, how do you remember word for word if you only watched it once? Like, I need to watch it various times to remember what they're saying. And so he has a memory where, he has a good memory. So I understand why he may not feel the need to rewatch something, because he remembers everything about it. Where I'm the complete opposite.
But we also,
even if I remember.
And you also, it probably, part of it is like, we consume more content than they do, because Matt's like that a little bit. Like, he'll be down to rewatch something, but it needs to be longer for him than it is for me even. And I think that's because I'm watching more shows throughout the day, because I can kind of have them on and off when I'm at home, or like when, or like if he's gaming and I don't feel like gaming at night. And so you probably watch more shows than he does, or like books, like, the more books you read, the harder it is to recall details of certain things. So it just depends.
As it happened in this episode where I loved a book and I completely have forgotten about it. So it happens. It happens. That's why I wanted to slow down this year, because I wanted to remember more details, but it's not that easy. Like, I just want to keep reading. So.
Well, it's like I finally did the Goodreads shelf thing like you do, where I just went through and I was like, no, I'm just gonna, part of what has held me up on it is feeling like I need to go back and do it with books I have read before, and maybe slowly, but I just made shelves for tropes. And as I'm reading, I'm doing that, because spoiler alert for people listening, like, we are recording this episode very last minute for us. We usually record on Wednesday mornings, and it's like Thursday mid-morning, and the episode comes out tomorrow for us. And we were going to try to record early on Monday, and Jen was like, we could do these topics. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad. But I was like, I need more time to prepare for like trope recs or something, because I just don't have a logging system. And that your message like kind of made me think, okay, this is
to do it.
It's a little, it's helpful now. It's not just a tool for myself. It's now would be beneficial for like our podcast.
Exactly.
For me to do these things. So
I
was like, I got to start doing that.
That's how I started doing it. It was for that, and all, like, like if anybody asked for Rex or post about Rex on Instagram or something like that. And then also because sometimes I was in the mood for something specific, so I would just go, or sometimes people have asked me, like, have DM'd me, hey, like, do you have any billionaire romances that are alpha holes? And it's like, okay, 1 second. So I go to my billionaire and I look at the other tags that I have for that book, and that helps. And another thing, I don't know if this could help you too, I saw a friend of mine do this, where, you know how sometimes you read a book and it's not for review, like it's just a book that you read that you wanted to read, and you just simply rate it and don't necessarily write a review. Well, the reason I started writing reviews for every single book that I've read, guys, I have to make a note over here. As we were recording, my laptop shut off. The thing is, I see the number that it says 4%, and I'm like, I still have time. No, I in fact did not have time, and so my laptop shut off.
I'm like already explaining why we're off today, and then the laptop just shuts off. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's been Oh my gosh, but it's fine. It's fine. I don't even remember what I was talking about at the end, but oh yeah, with just very quickly on the tropes, how basically I noticed that my friend was writing not full length reviews, like basically 3 to 5 sentences of why she enjoyed the book and then the tropes on her Goodreads, like just written down. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a cool, like even for myself, because sometimes you forget what you read, because that happens to me a lot. You know, I read so much that I forget. And so having just even a little bit of at least the vibes, like what did I feel while I was reading? Like, was it good? Did I enjoy? Was there a, male main character that I thought was sweet, whatever. And then the tropes. And I thought that was a really neat idea. So that's how I've tried to approach reviewing this year. Just write like something, especially books that are not for review, just write something short, just 3 to 5 sentence paragraph, and that's it. And then the tropes, and that's it. And I'm also trying to add even micro tropes as well, because I've realized that like he washes her hair, that's a shelf in my Goodreads, stuff like that, because just to be able to keep better track of things, because sometimes people are now diving into micro tropes and sharing book recommendations on Instagram about micro tropes, like like he remembers her coffee order, something so minimal, but people are liking that. So I was like, I'm gonna have to start making, like, my shelves are gonna be crazy. I'm gonna have to start making them, because it's definitely gonna be easier to go back. I've learned the hard way that needing the shelves, it's needed. So so yeah.
No, that's smart. That's really smart.
So yeah, I'm glad you're doing it now too.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like it'll be helpful in the long run. And I will slowly work my way through. Like maybe I just tackle month by month. Like, okay, I'm going to go in my January 2023 reads and tag them, in random 10-minute spurts. But
it also helps. And now that you're on Goodreads, it also helps that other people write tropes or have their own shelves for tropes. So if there's one thing that you forget, you can easily scroll down and view other people's reviews and check their tropes. And it's like, oh yeah, because sometimes you forget, and so you can just add them. I think that also helps too. So, so
yeah. Well, we hope that your reading month was a good one, besties, and literally never hesitate to message us. I know we say this every episode, but we want to be friends with you and connect with you. And so message us. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. TikTok's not as strong. I'm working on it though. So primarily Instagram at exactly with 3 Ys pod. We also have our episodes uploaded to YouTube a few days later than the episode goes live. So you can check us out on YouTube, same handle at exactlyyy with 3 Ys. I do like how YouTube now lets you just have a handle to search and find people by. Yeah. It's great. So yeah.
As always, thanks for being here. Here's to another new month for reading, binge watching, anything. We can't wait to talk soon.